Everybody, this is me, Houston Carver, and I'm back. Tonight I'm going to be doing another album review. I haven't done an album review in a year, so I figured tonight would be a good night to do one. And what you see behind me here is Beastie Boys' Paul's Boutique, their second album that they released on July 25th, 1989. Now, this album was during their changes in their career. Now, this record was not released on Def Jam Records. It was released on Capitol Records. Because the reason why they weren't on Def Jam anymore is because producer Rick Rubin from Def Jam, he wanted another License to Ill. But the Beastie Boys did not want another License to Ill. They felt like they were too commercial after they were released. So they wanted a different approach. And so they came out with Paul's Boutique, which I think this album is amazing. Now let's get into the details. This album was released July 25th, 1989, and it was recorded during 1988 through 1989. And the studios that were recorded, or that this album was recorded from, was at Mario C's in Los Angeles, the Opium Den, and also the record plant in New York City. The genres that they have were alternative hip hop, rap rock, and psychedelic hip hop, which, if you listen to this album, you can instantly tell that it's psychedelic hip hop. The length of this album is nearly 53 minutes, and it was on Capitol Records, and the Beastie Boys produced it along with the Dust Brothers and Mario C. The only two singles off this album were Hey Ladies and Shadrach. Shadrach was released October 30th, 1989, while the Hey Ladies single came out the same day as the album, July 25th. It is their second album by the American hip-hop group Beastie Boys, released on July 25th, just like I said. And subsequent remixes were done at the Manhattan-based record plant studios. And the album was noted for being almost completely composed of samples, excluding the group's vocal output. Which I gotta agree with that, because they used a lot of samples on this album. And back then, samples were really cheap. Now it's expensive to use samples in records. And Paul's Boutique was initially considered a commercial failure, sadly, by the executives at Capitol Records, as its sales did not match that of the group's previous record License to Ill. And the label eventually decided to stop promoting this album. The album's popularity continued to grow, however, and it has been since touted as a breakthrough achievement for the Beastie Boys, which that is understandable, because these guys right here, they did something different and everybody started to like it. Now, it was a good breakthrough achievement for them. I really enjoyed this album. And Paul's Boutique secured the Beastie Boys' place as critical favorites in the hip-hop genre. Now, the album's rankings was near the top of many publications' best album lists in disparate genres, has given Paul's Boutique critical recognition as a landmark album in hip-hop history. I agree with that. And on January 27th, 1999, nearly 10 years later, almost 10 years later, Paul's Boutique was certified double platinum, my fault, in sales by the Recording Industry Association of America, or shortened as RIAA. Now, in 2003, the album was ranked number 156 on the Rolling Stone magazine's list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. Which, I believe that. I really do. And the album was released in a 20th anniversary package sorry about that. I had to take a break for a minute. Let's get back to track here. Well, the album was released in a 20th anniversary package remastered in 24-bit audio, and it was featured a commentary track on January 27th, 2009. Now, the background of this album, it was derided as one-hit wonders and estranged from their original producer, Rick Rubin, and record label Def Jam. The Beastie Boys were in self-imposed exile in Los Angeles during early 1988 and were written off by most public critics before even beginning to record the album. Following the commercial success to License to Ill, the Beastie Boys were focusing on making an album with more creative depth and less commercial material, which, as you can tell if you listen to this album, just like I said. Now, the group's previous album had been enormously popular, and honestly, I think it's their most mainstream album that they have released. And it also received critical acclaim among both mainstream and hip-hop music critics. So I was right on the money on that. Although its simple, heavy beats and commercially juvenile lyrics led it to be labeled as frat hip-hop. The group signed with Capitol Records and EMI Records later on that year, in 1988. The Dust Brothers, whose extensive and innovative use of sampling helped establish the practice of multi-layered sampling as an art in itself. While the Dust Brothers were on the set of making a hit record, the duo agreed with the group on producing a more experimental and sonically different record. In total, 105 songs were sampled on this album. That's a lot of songs right there, including 24 individual samples on the last track alone. Now, the last track is called B-Boy Boolabees, or however you say it. But it's basically 8 tracks in one. But if you get the remastered version, it's 23 tracks, I think. But if you have the original, it's only 15. Which the 15th track, B-Boy Boolabees, or however you say it, just like I said, it's about 12 minutes long. And that's the longest song that they've ever released, at least within my knowledge. But anyway, let's get back on this review. The back-end tracks were allegedly produced with the intention of being released as a Dust Brothers instrumental album. But the Beastie Boys convinced the duo to use the tracks as the basis of their follow-up to License to Ill. That's an interesting fact right there. Now, if you have this on record, if you open it up, it's a panoramic photograph of Ludlow Street, which is in Brooklyn. And the cover art and gatefold is a photograph of it, as shot from 99 Rivington Street. But it was credited to Nathaniel Hornblower, but shot by Jeremy Shapton. I don't know how you say Nathaniel's name. I was just doing it to the best of my ability. So, if you want to correct me, that's okay. But mostly this album got some positive reviews. It was mostly rated as A and 10 out of 10. There was this one review where it had 9 out of 10. So, fairly, this was a good album. So, on its initial release, Paul's Boutique was commercially unsuccessful because its experimental and dense sampling and lyricism, in contrast to the Beastie Boys' previous album, License to Ill. It was a commercial disappointment, sadly, but it only peaked at number 24 on the top R&B/hip-hop albums chart during that time. The album received a gold certification by the RIAA on September 22nd of its release year, 1989. Paul's Boutique would go on to sell over 2 million copies by 1999. And on the charts of 1999, Australian albums peaked position at 65, UK albums 44, US Billboard 200 at 14, and like we mentioned earlier, US top R&B/hip-hop albums number 24. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Paul's Boutique by the Beastie Boys. Now, if you don't know who the Beastie Boys are, you should probably check them out, because they defined hip-hop for their time. I think they were the first white hip-hop rappers. And it was a feature of how the hip-hop game had changed back in the day. Because there was only rappers like Public Enemy and EPMD and Eric B. Rakim, all those old school rappers, which I listen to those rappers today. Which, in my opinion, they're better than today's rappers. Which, there's only a few good songs by today's rappers, but other than that, I could care less about today's rappers. Because I stick with the old school. And I'll stick with the old school until the day I die. So, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you liked it, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, any recommendations within the records I should do, within the records I should review, which, if you haven't checked out my records, my entire vinyl collection video, go check it out. Because that was my previous video from now. And so, I just want to say to everybody, thank you for subscribing to me, Houston Carver. Please stay tuned for more videos and updates. I got a couple new records that I got, so I'm going to do that in the next video. So, I hope you guys have a good day or have a good night, and I'm out of here. See you later. Until next time.